I think it's really important with any local patch to come on a regular basis. If you come just once or twice, it will not reveal its secrets to you. You have to come to a place many times before that place begins to trust you. And once you kind of get used to what's around, then you'll start seeing birds and noticing all sorts of different things. My name is David Lindo, also known as the Urban Birder. I'm a born and bred Londoner, and I am a broadcaster, I'm a writer, I lead tours. I also talk a lot about birds, in particular urban birds. My whole ethos is to try and engage city folk in nature and into their environment, but through the medium of birds. This is Wormwood Scrubs in West London, very close to Wormwood Scrubs prison over there, and also fairly close to places like the London Wetland Centre and not too far away from central London. So it's a really urban place, but for me this green island has a special place in my heart. It doesn't necessarily look like much when you first sort of encounter it. A lot of it is plain fields. There is a very thin strip of woodland around the perimeter. But then this area here is an area of grassland which has been in existence, I suppose, for the last 20 years. And the whole area is really interesting because it seems to attract a whole array of birds. Some of them you'd never expect. I mean, having shorebirds flying across here is something you wouldn't expect. I've even seen a kingfisher here, and there's no water for quite a few miles around, so it's a really special place. But I also think it's very similar to a lot of places in the UK that people don't actually consider as venues for watching birds and other wildlife. Over the last 30 years, there's been at least 150 different species of bird here, which is pretty good considering that London has had about 370 plus, and this is a very urban area. There's also other wildlife. There's foxes here. I've seen a badger once actually, stoats, weasel, and obviously squirrels. And we also have quite a good population of common lizards, but there's also slowworm here. There's an array of butterflies to be found here, and dragonflies during the summer as well. So it's actually a very rich area, and plus the flora is surprisingly, good, and there's obviously insects and other things attracted to them. So basically, it is a really great oasis in the middle of West London. This space is really special to me because I've been coming here for over 30 years. I've seen it develop, I've also seen it degrade a little bit, but it's the wealth of birds and other wildlife, but particularly birds that I've seen here, which even for me as a seasoned birder traveling the world surprises me, because it's just one of those places you would never expect birds to be in. And I remember when I first started coming here, people were saying to me, "Why are you coming here? You should be going to a proper place like in Suffolk or Norfolk." But for me, the challenge is coming here and seeing the same things that they'll be seeing in those places. The interesting thing about Wormwood Scrubs is the fact that A, I was born literally a mile and a half that way. B, I lived about 3 miles that way. And when I actually first discovered this place, I was working literally half a mile away. And I noticed this area of green on an A to Z, and I thought, this could be a nice place to go to at lunchtimes. And it was like a biblical thing, because the first few times I went, didn't see much, and all of a sudden, on the 7th day, I started seeing things, and then I was hooked. Being here in my garden in Wormwood Scrubs, I find it a very grounding experience. I'm not really that interested in seeing something rare or what have you, even though I do sometimes. It's more about being in touch with nature. It's more about feeling the spirit and being on the same wavelength as a lot of the wildlife here. And also sometimes I imagine I'm somewhere else. I come here and I think I'm on the Isles of Scilly, or I'm in Shetland, or I'm somewhere in Norfolk, because in reality the habitat is very similar to those places. It's just that I'm in a city, and you have to kind of train yourself to think that actually birds will look at this place and think it's the Scillies, you know, it's Shetland, it's the same kind of thing. I think it's really important with any local patch to come on a regular basis. If you come just once or twice, it will not reveal its secrets to you. You have to come to a place many times before that place begins to trust you, and you realize that, you know, you might see certain things in the brambles compared to what you might see in the woodlands. And once you kind of get used to what's around, then you'll start seeing birds and noticing all sorts of different things. My favourite area of Wormwood Scrubs is actually where we're standing, and particularly there's an embankment behind us which hides the grotesque HS2 stuff, and that area in particular for some reason attracts most of the scarcer birds. Anything that's been rare has been seen predominantly in that area, so that's one of my favourite spots. The problem with urban oasis like this is the fact that it's always been encroached by developers. You're always fighting this perennial war against people coming in and trying to develop or trying to take piece of the land to build grotesque buildings and flats and stuff like that. So we've been fighting collectively for decades against various pieces of development. The actual site itself has lost at least a third of its land to those developments, and I think it's a situation, a problem that is universal, not just in the UK but in the world, where with urban areas there's this pressure to build and to use up land. And I think it's a shame, because we need areas of green, we need areas of blue that are very good for our mental health. My favourite bird is called a Ring Ouzel. It's a type of thrush which normally lives in Western England, Wales and Northern England and Scotland. It's quite a scarce bird. It looks very similar to a blackbird, but there's around about 6,000 pairs and decreasing nesting in the UK compared to blackbirds where there's 7 to 8 million pairs. Ring Ouzels are summer visiting, and their similarity to blackbirds ends with its look, because they are very different birds. Shy, the song's not as good, and they're migratory. And I loved them when I was a kid, because I didn't know, when I first started birding at the age of 5, I didn't know anything. I had no one to tell me anything. I went to the local library, I found a book which was a guide to the birds of Britain, Europe and North Africa, and I remember seeing the plate with blackbird and Ring Ouzel, and I thought, oh, that bird looks amazing, I'd love to see one. But then I realised that I needed to go to the Cairngorms or Dartmoor or Snowdonia, and I had no one to take me. So I lived many years without seeing a Ring Ouzel, until one day I had a dream. I dreamt that I saw a Ring Ouzel, and it was in April about 20 years ago. So I woke up in the morning thinking, how can that be? I've not seen a Ring Ouzel, there's none in London. I came to my local patch right here in Wormwood Scrubs. I walked around, I didn't see too much. I went back to my car, and then something possessed me to look over my shoulder. And as I did, a dark bird flew across and landed about 50 feet away. I got my binoculars, and there, filling the whole view, was a male Ring Ouzel on my patch in West London. Not in the middle of Snowdonia or the Cairngorms, right here. And interestingly, they turn up every year here. So my favourite bird came to see me. My favourite time of year to be here in the Scrubs actually is in the autumn, because it's a really great time when birds are migrating through to head to Africa. They spend more time, and plus there's more of them because there's juveniles with them as well, and they spend sometimes days hanging out, whereas in the spring, which is also a nice time, birds are more in a hurry to get to their breeding sites. So we get birds like northern wheatears come here, which normally nest on moorland areas and remote areas, and they come through London and they come here as well, but they're here for a day or two and then bang, they're off. Whereas in the autumn you've got more of a chance to seeing them for prolonged periods. During the breeding season in Wormwood Scrubs, we have an array of different birds actually. We have quite a decent population of song thrushes. We used to have the biggest in London, but unfortunately due to habitat degradation, that's not the case. We also get breeding linnets, and there's plenty of things like white throats, We have a couple of pairs of lesser white-throat, which is a scarcity in London, and then black-caps, chiff-chaffs and birds like that, blackbirds and robins. During the winter, this site is also quite good for finding stonechats, again a bird that you would kind of expect to see in more rural areas. We normally have one or two that winter here, and on the playing fields when there's no dog walkers, we may get large flocks of gulls that come in the morning just to feed before the dog walkers come. So it's quite an interesting site, and also we have peregrines not too far away that come here to hunt, and kestrels, and now increasingly buzzards and red kites. Some of my happiest memories involve finding quite interesting birds. One of them was when I came here, it was during the autumn, and there are these little birds that used to nest here called meadow pipits. They're very brown and streaky, not much to look at, but I love them. And one day I found around about 200 of them in this area, which was amazing. But amongst them was one that was slightly bigger, and it turned out to be a very rare vagrant called the Richard's pipit, which normally resides in Siberia. But it was here in the middle of London, not on some remote island somewhere or in the middle of some rural idyllic place, but right here. So it just shows that anything can turn up anywhere at any time.